There are many methods of adding Microsoft Excel cell values. In today's video, I'll be introducing you to the Microsoft Excel AutoSum feature, sum, SUMIF, and the SUMIFs function. Let's just dive right into it. By the way, the spreadsheet being used in this video as well as the instructions being outlined can be found on my blog, which is linked in the video description down below. Now, Excel's AutoSum feature can be found on the Formulas tab, which is just right here, and it's this little icon right here. Now, this can be used for many purposes, as you can see, but for the purpose of the video, we're just going to be focusing on the sum. Now, to use this, all you need to do is click on a blank cell that is below the numeric values you'd like Excel to add. Now, it doesn't matter if it's all the way down here or if it's just right here. As long as it's below the numeric values that are within a column, Excel will be able to pull those values even if they're scattered. Like, even if I should put 3 right here, once there's a numeric value, Excel will group them and add them. So like I mentioned, all you need to do, click on the blank cell, then click on AutoSum, choose that sum icon, and you notice that Excel highlighted only the numeric values and turns them into a range, and it's using that range to create the addition. And the sum of all of these is being denoted by 105. Now that's pretty straightforward. All it did was it took the sum function, which is equal sum, open bracket, highlighted all of those numeric values, click on enter, and you'll get the same value. But let's say I wanted to add these dates that are over there. Now, AutoSum only works for numeric values. You can see here, after clicking on it, it's not recognizing any of these as numbers. And you may argue and say, but hey, they comprise of numbers, so why isn't it recognizing it? And if you should try the equal sum and highlight everything, you would get the summation of all of those. Now, let's say for some reason you want to use the AutoSum to calculate these dates. What you will need to do is change the format of all of these dates by going into the Home tab, then go into the number group right here, click on that drop down menu. You can either use General, and you'll see the dates being converted to numeric values. Then you could use the AutoSum feature once more, and just like that, you should just get the same value. And you could quite easily just change this back. This is very useful to change the format of cells. Let's say I don't want any short date like the one that I had before, but I wanted a long date. Oh, and just a quick note, if you notice that your data is appearing with a bunch of hashtags, that's just simply mean that the cell is not large enough. You can extend the cell by clicking right there and just drag it all over, or you can just double click and it should just auto fit. Now we're going to talk about adding values based on conditions. Now, conditions are like criteria that need to be met for an expression to output a specific value. By default, in Excel, conditions follow the rule of if then else and output a true or false by default. Now, with a SUMIF and SUMIFs function, as you would expect, what would happen is, based on the criteria, the addition is done. Now, if there's only one criteria, you'd use the SUMIF function. If there are multiple criteria, you'll use the sum ifs function. Now I have a few examples that I've added to the spreadsheet, a few examples of what are criteria. So for example, quantity being greater than 10. In order to calculate this, what I would do is I'll type equals sum if, open bracket, and you can follow the syntax to know exactly what needs to be done. The range is just an indication of what cells need to be evaluated in order to output the summation. And the criteria is just an argument that needs to be met based on the particular range in order to output the sum. Now my range is going to be the quantity range right here. These are the cells that I would like to evaluate. And you use a comma to separate each portion of the argument. So you can see right here, it's highlighting the criteria because that is the next step. Let's say I didn't have that comma and I just continued by saying, hey, my criteria is greater than 10. You'll notice that it's grouping all of this as if it's a range, which is why it's important to add the comma. Another thing to note is that in the case of criteria, if a non-numeric value is present within a criteria, quotation marks must be placed around it to prevent the occurrence of errors. And anything that is non-numeric, even if it's grouped with a numeric value, should be treated in this way. Now I'll just place another comma. Now the sum range is optional. Any item within a syntax, which is this right here, that has square brackets around it, these are treated as being optional. They're not necessary in all cases. A sum range is only needed in a sum if function if the range included is different from the range to be calculated. Now in this case, they are exactly the same. My sum range would be my quantity range right here. They are exactly the same. So I don't necessarily need to input that. So I just close off my bracket, hit enter, and you'll notice that all of these items that were greater than 10 were calculated rather. And you can easily test if this is true. You can recall earlier we got 105 to be the total value of these. And the only items that are less than or equal to 10 are 10 and 15. So if I should say 105 minus 10, sorry, 10 and 5, not 10 and 15. If I should say 105 minus 10 minus 5, I got 90. So you can see here that nothing is wrong with the formula. It's okay. Now let's say I wanted to add the quantity for only Apple products. What I would do, now you notice that my range is different because I'm not evaluating the quantity, because Apple is not being represented in the quantity column. Apple is being represented in the product column. So what I'll do is I'll say equals sum if. My range right here would be these, comma. A good way to look at it is the range is wherever the criteria can be found. My criteria cannot be found here. It can only be found here based on my table. And there are two ways I could go about writing my criteria. I could either click on this cell that is clearly representing Apple, or even this one, since they're both apple. Or I could place my quotation marks, type out apple, and it doesn't matter what case it is written in. It's not a case sensitive type of thing. I could close my bracket, place another comma, and then you'll notice that my sum range is different from my range. So in this case, it is no longer optional. It is actually needed for the calculation to take place. Now close my bracket. Please note that the last bracket in any function or expression should be black in order for the function to work. If your last bracket is a green or red or anything like that, it may output an error saying that you need to close the function, or there seems to be a parenthesis missing or anything like that. For simple functions like this, Excel tends to just include the bracket for you, but for complex ones, you'll need to go in and make the necessary changes. And you see that regardless of the case that it's written in, it did manage to add the quantities for apple, which is 25, 20, and 5. Now let's move on to sum ifs. Now sum ifs are used when there are multiple criteria to be met. So in this case, I have the product being equal to apple and the quantity being less than 15. Now all I need to do is type in sum ifs, and if you're worrying that you may mess up the function, something may go wrong, what you can do is that you can use the insert function feature right here, and it will guide you through the entire process. And it will even give you explanations for each part. So here it's saying that the sum range are the actual cells to be summed, which in this case are these. And then my first criteria range is going to be the products. And you'll realize how easy this has become. And then for my criteria, once again, I could type out apple, or I could just click on apple just like that. And my other criteria range is going to be the quantity range right here. And my criteria is going to be less than 15. And you'll notice that once you're using the insert function feature, Excel will make any necessary changes for you to make your function work. You notice that the quotation marks were inserted automatically. And it's a good way to see if there are any errors in your formula or function. And you notice that it is outputting a 5, which is actually the correct value, since 5 is the only value here that satisfies both criteria. And just to give you like another example, let's say I want to include the dates in this. Let's say I want a date that is greater than May 3rd, 2021, and a product that is a book. Let's say I want those to be the criteria. What I would do, just do the same thing, equals sum ifs. Again, if you're unsure, sometimes we're working with complex functions, it's very easy to make mistakes. So I would advise any beginner to use the insert function feature. It's very easy to work with. It gives you explanations for each part, so you don't need to worry. As well as if there are any errors, it will point it out for you. So right here it's saying the date needs to be greater than. Actually, let me show you what I mean by displaying the errors as you go on. Let's say I had greater than that as my sum range. But I didn't leave it like that. Let's say I add just some random digits in there as my sum range. You'll see that it's showing it as invalid. It's telling that there's something wrong there. So let me just correct that. My range that I want to be summed up is once again my quantities. Criteria range 1 would be my dates right here, and then my first criteria is going to be greater than, and this is the part where you need to be a little more vigilant when working with dates. The date format that you use in an Excel function should match the date format that is on your PC or any device that you're using in order for it to output accurate information. So on my computer, the way I have it set up is that it goes as day, month, and then year. And then my second criteria range is going to be my products. And my criteria is going to be book. And just like that, you're seeing the 35, which is believed to actually be correct. Greater than May 3rd, May 4th book, that's 10. And you can easily check these things. 10 plus 25 gives you 35, and they both satisfy the criteria. So that's it for this video. I hope that it was very insightful. I hope that I assisted you in learning something new today. I just want to say thank you for watching. If you've made it this far in the video, please remember to give it a huge thumbs up. As well as if you enjoyed the video, please remember to subscribe and turn on the post notifications to get notified every single time I post a new video.